Hey there, tubers. Today's video is going to be on the removal of the radiator on my 2004 link belt 210LX excavator. So what I've got going on here is I noticed a while back, hopefully you can see it down here, got a little bit of a seep in the bottom corners of this radiator. And I'm not sure whether it's the tank itself leaking or whether I've got a little bit of a pinhole or something going on. But I'm gonna pull that radiator out and go take it in and have it pressure tested and see what's going on. So as you can tell, there's a few things in front of it. I've got an oil cooler and my air conditioner condenser. So we've got to take a few things out before we can get to it. And the first thing we've got to do is take this grate up here for walking around the engine out. And there's 5 bolts that hold that on. And then one underneath here. And a 19 millimeter, we'll take those off. So I'll be able to buzz that off pretty quick. And then once I get that off, there's 4 bolts and a couple up there, and those are 14 millimeter. I'll take those out, and then this whole thing should pivot out. And then once we get it pivoted out, I'll see if I can get into the hinges up and down here, and then pull the bolts on that. But I'll get that grate and this front section loosened up and be right back. Okay, so that's what it looks like with that grate out. I've got the 4 bolts out in the corners here, and now this thing should just pivot out. And it looks like that's about as far as it pivots. Guess that's a safety so this doesn't get into that. But I don't know how easy it's going to be to get to those hinge bolts. I guess it'll be a wrench kind of a job there. So I've got to take these 4 hinge bolts out so that this is separated from the radiator. And then I'm going to have to get some blocks, I think, to kind of hold this oil cooler setup up here. Because if I take those hinge bolts out, it's probably just going to fall down, and it's heavy enough as it is, so I don't want to damage anything. So we'll try and get some cribbing or something up here and hold this up, and I'll see about getting those bolts out. That's going to be a little bit of a task. So I'll get back to you after I figure this out. Alright, so after looking at this, trying to get these bolts out of the hinges, I am going to take this, this is the air intake for your air cleaner. It sucks up from underneath here. There are 6 bolts that hold that on, 2 here, 2 on top, and 2 on the back. And the ones on the back you have to get from in here. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out and pull this piece off, and that'll allow me better access to those 2 hinges to get those bolts out. So I'll pull those. There's just a little keeper here that's holding the overflow hose, so I'll pull that out of the way, get those 6 bolts pulled. Hopefully this piece just comes right off. I don't see why it wouldn't, and then I should have a lot better access to those hinges. So I'll get that pulled and see you in a minute. Well, I ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole with this project here. In order to get this off, had to get to some bolts that were back in here. in order to get to those bolts, I need to take this upper decking off. And then to get to this upper decking, I had to finish taking the guardrail off. So took the handrail off, took the upper decking off to get to those two bolts there. And the upper bolts for this decking are 19 millimeter, same with the handle. And then this air intake is 18 millimeters. So I took 4 of them out. 2 of them over here are slotted. So I'm going to see if I can wiggle this thing out. If there's enough room to do it. Yep, just barely. There we go. So now I'll get this out of here. That's probably going to take 2 hands, but then that'll give me better access to these hinge bolts, which are 14 millimeter. And I'll get those pulled and hopefully set that oil cooler down nice and gently, and then we'll move on to the next step. And there it is with the air intake out of the way. So as you can see, a lot easier to get to these hinge bolts. So I'll get those pulled and be back. Okay, so I got those bolts out. That worked out a lot better than I thought. This has got a little bit of weight to it, but it's not horrible. And I got it sitting down on these blocks, so it should be good. So the next step will be to drain the radiator. And in order to do that, I have to come up underneath here and pull this panel off here. There's 4 bolts, 19 millimeter. I'll take those off. The 2 front ones are slotted, so you can just loosen those and then pull these back 2 and then just pull that plate off, and that should give me access to the underside of the radiator. So I'm hoping the drain's handy, so I'll get that pulled off and we'll see if we can get there. Got the panel off. Now you can see the bottom side of the radiator here, and from the looks of this, it's been seeping for quite a while. But the drain for the tank is right there. It holds just over 7 gallons in the whole system, so I'm sure some will stay in the block, but I'm going to plan on having buckets to hold at least 7, just in case. So I'll get that drain pulled, and I'm guessing that's going to make a heck of a mess. It's probably going to come out, hit this, and then down. I'm going to see if I can make some kind of shield that'll maybe direct it down to a bucket, and I'll get that draining, and then figure out what the next step is. I am happy to report that this isn't going to be a big mess maker for me. So I backed that little screw out, and what I didn't realize is there's a hole right there. Lets it drain straight down. So this will be great. No mess. So I'll just let this drain for a while, and then we'll move on to probably pulling that shroud and some radiator hoses after this gets all drained. So I'll see you after a while. Well, while that's draining, I might as well try and stay somewhat busy here. So what I'm going to do is pull this expansion tank line off. Then I'll pull the upper radiator hose off. I think enough's drained out that I can do that. And these aren't factory clamps. These are clamps that I put on. So yours will probably be a little different. But 10 millimeter will take that off. And I'm going to replace the hoses while I got everything apart. So I'll pull the other end off here. Then once I get those 2 lines off, I'm going to loosen this shroud up, and that's this bolt right here. And that's an 8 millimeter or a Phillips head screwdriver. And then you just back this all the way off, and then you can slap this rubber shroud thing off towards the fan, get it off the radiator, and then that stuff should be freed up. And hopefully not too long from now it'll be finished draining, and I can go down to the lower radiator hose. Okay, so I've got that expansion tank hose off, upper radiator hose taken off. I've loosened this band up, and now this band and this rubber piece have been on here since it was new. So this banding here had kind of stuck to the rubber, so I had to take a screwdriver and go underneath it and kind of break it free. And then I had to do the same thing with this rubber. It had stuck to the paint on this shroud and was a bear to get off, and it was not fun to get up and over this lip that's on the shroud here. But I think I've got, for the most part, all of it, so that should be good. And then I'll jump down here and show you that it did finish draining. But that's not even close to 7 gallons. That'd be about 3.5, is maybe pushing 4, but I doubt it. So that means there's quite a bit still in the block. So I guess what I'll do is I'll pull that lower radiator hose there. Might get some more out, might not. But then once I get that pulled, I think the next thing would be is to pull the 4 bolts. There's 2 there and 2 there, and those are 24mm, and the way they look, it probably is going to be a breaker bar or a big impact to get those broke free. But those 4 bolts are what hold the radiator to the frame, and I'll get those pulled. And then I think there's a couple of more supports that hold this in, but I'll get these taken care of, and then we'll see if there's something else holding it. So good news, those came out with my electric impact there, no problem, so that was good. And then while I'm under here, I'll show you this brace here. It goes all the way up to the top. This will need to be pulled. That's a 19mm on each end, and I'll climb around here and show you what it looks like on this end. So that brace comes up, comes through the side, and it's right here. So there's a bolt there, and that'll get that side off. And then this side, there's one right here, and it comes through, and the other one's right here. So that little L-shaped bracket holds it on this side. So I'll pull those 4 bolts, and then I think this radiator is actually ready to come out. So I'll get those pulled real quick. That's going to be wrenches, just due to the location on at least a couple of these, unfortunately. So it'll take me a bit, but I'll get those out, and then I think this will be loose, and I'll just throw a strap around it and lift it out, hopefully. So be back in a bit. There are the 4 bolts that came out. One brace. The other brace is right down here, 'cause it's zip tied. And this radiator is loose. I thought maybe I would be able to pick it up myself, but it's heavier than it looks. But also looking now, hopefully the camera will show you, but you've got a lot of stuff over here on this one side that you've got to avoid. Now most of this is foam, but then there's a metal piece that foam is attached to. So I'm probably going to have to kind of turn this at an angle here to avoid all these lines before I could lift it. So I'm going to try rotating it, and then I'm going to have to get a lifting strap of some sort put around it, and I'll probably have to pick this out with another machine, and maybe go get some help, somebody to spot, make sure we don't tear anything up as it comes out. So I'll try that and let you know what happens. Well, there it is, out and about. So looks like a few things have gone through the fan and maybe bent some of the coils, but I don't really see any leaks anywhere other than the bottom tank. So I'm guessing that it's just the tank. And unfortunately, this is an aluminum radiator with plastic tanks. So if it is the tanks, I'm probably going to have to replace the whole unit, which is going to be a chunk of change. I think Link Belt wants $2,500 for these things. And then you got to ship them by truck because they're so big. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull these 8 bolts on the back side, the 8 on the front side here, take this shroud off, take this whole bracket assembly off so it's just the radiator by itself, and then I'll run that in and have them pressure test it and verify whether it's the tanks or not. But these are 12 millimeter front and back. I'll get those buzzed off and then actually pull the radiator from this bracket, which will lighten it up quite a bit, so I should be able to just pick it out by hand. And don't mind my OSHA approved lifting straps here, but this thing was light enough, it did the job. So I'll get those buzzed off and we'll see what it looks like. There she is, out of the bracket. And as you can see, it's just a normal run-of-the-day radiator. There's some seeps in the upper corners and then basically across the bottom here. So I'm guessing it's the tanks, but you never know. So I'll get this loaded up, run in, pressure tested, and hope for the best. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up buying a new radiator at this point. But so I'll make another video of me putting either this one back or a new one back in, and just doing it in the reverse order. But if you didn't want to wait for that, basically you saw how it came out. It just goes right in the opposite way. And with that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later.